Good morning, everybody. Welcome to the February 9th, 2018 edition of the Intuit Developer Friday Morning Hangout. I'm your host, David. I'm the Intuit Global Small Business Ecosystem Evangelist. You can follow me on Twitter at David Leary. Today we have two special guests. Alex and Rajashree will be here to talk to give an encore presentation of the presentation they gave at QuickBooks Connect last fall. For those of you who weren't able to attend the event in person, you can definitely take a lot of takeaways from the content today. Also, as an experiment, this is the first time ever we are streaming to Facebook Live, so hopefully it's working, and some of you can put comments and ask questions on Facebook Live as well. Just a couple of housekeeping things before we jump in. As a reminder, again, we are for the third year in a row, we are going to do the Small Business App Showdown. So you want to go to smallbusinessappshowdown.com. You need to have 187 days left to submit your app. You need to get your app live on apps.com and enter the contest. What we're doing is we're taking the top 10 finalists. We bring them to San Jose for QuickBooks Connect. You get on stage, you pitch in front of a panel of judges, and the winner takes home $100,000. But it's just not the money, it's the exposure. So then we follow up with 6 months of getting you in front of customers, helping you establish your place in the market. It's really a good way to help new developers get some wheels and traction on the platform. And again, like I just mentioned, QuickBooks Connect, it's coming up November 5th through the 7th in San Jose. Start blocking that off in your calendar, planning to come. We will have a hackathon before the event again, probably. And then at the event, we will have sessions for small business owners, sessions for accountants, and sessions for developers. So start slotting that in and getting on that on your calendar. And for those of you that are close to London, we're going to be there now, I think in about 21 days. We're going to be in London for QuickBooks Connect in London. I did a screenshot of the website and coincidentally captured these guys who are hackathon winners from our hackathon in London last year. And so they've had a pretty wild ride going from an idea, building at the hackathon. They're going to be launching on apps.com any moment now. And so you could be that person. If you want to come to London, join the hackathon there. Definitely would love to see you. And the hackathon page for London is Small Biz Hack London. I know we did a hangout about 4 hours ago for those of you in London, but if any of you are tuning in a second time, definitely want to see you in London. So smallbizhacklondon.com. And then like always, this event, all the events we're doing, including next week's Startup Grind Conference, can all be found on the events page, developer.intuit.com/hub/events. And then just the last thing as a reminder, during the hangout, if you have any questions, please use the Q&A panel. If you have just any general comments or, how's the weather, good to see you, please use the chat for that type of stuff. Without further ado, though, I'd like Alex and Rajashree, if you guys could, your cameras should be working. If you want to come off and mute, and I'd love for the two of you to introduce yourselves, and then we'll kick it off.
Hi, my name is Alex Barnett. I lead the Intuit Developer Group. I'm very excited to join this Hangout and share with you everything that we're doing for our developer ecosystem.
And I'm Rajashree Pimpalkhare. I lead engineering for Intuit Developer Group and work closely with Alex. And I'm looking forward to telling you all about where we are going in terms of the platform and the productivity tools and so on. Good morning.
Great. And my understanding is, Alex, you have a slide deck you need to share, apparently.
Yeah, let me go back to reminding myself how to do that, because the little piece of the UI
should be across the bottom. Yeah, it dances. It moves.
Thing that is screaming to be clicked that I just didn't. So
perfect.
All right, good. So we're going to cover 3 broad areas through these slides and the talk today. We want to share with you the vision that we have for the QuickBooks Online ecosystem and the opportunity that we see for third-party developers to thrive as part of our ecosystem. Share with you some specifics on how we're helping our developers on our platform succeed. And then we'll have Rajashree talk a little bit more about specifics around the platform and where we're heading to keep growing the capabilities of the platform so you as developers are able to enjoy more success through the integrations. So starting with the way that we think about the overall opportunity, Intuit, it's mission is about powering prosperity around the world. And when we think about QuickBooks and the products and the offerings that we have, it's really about enabling our customers to be able to succeed around the world. That includes small businesses as well as the self-employed. And so we think about being the champions of those who dare to dream, those 800 million small businesses and self-employed around the world that we want to be able to help them succeed and be their champions on their behalf and helping them thrive. And when these 800 million businesses are succeeding, they're really driving probably over 40% of the world's economy and GDP. So it's a really significant part of the overall global economy, and each of these businesses really contribute to that. So this is a pretty huge opportunity that we see at Intuit and at QuickBooks to be able to serve these customers and help them succeed. And collectively, not just with Intuit's own offerings, but with the ecosystem and the platform and third-party developers, is how do we jointly serve these customers and help them thrive. So just a couple of numbers to help you understand where we're heading. We announced recently over 2.5 million paying subscribers to QuickBooks Online. And that growth that we're seeing is accelerating. Overall, we're seeing over 50% growth year on year, and a lot of that growth is actually being driven from outside of the US as well. So over 70% of our subscriber growth now is coming from customers and self-employed outside of the United States, which is also very exciting as the global opportunity and how we see that. Now, a lot of the success that we're having in attracting and retaining new customers comes through the innovations that we're powering inside of our products. And so I wanted to talk about 3 examples here about how we're leveraging machine learning and artificial intelligence and the data that we have within our customers' data that is sitting in the cloud, around how we're leveraging all of that data to be able to help our customers succeed and save time and money. So the first one is QBO mobile auto categorization. So we're using machine learning to automatically categorize those transactions as they get imported into QuickBooks Online from their bank accounts. And so that automation there is really saving a whole bunch of time and money, but we're leveraging machine learning and the very large data sets that we've got to be able to intelligently and automatically and with high levels of accuracy is do the auto categorization and saving a bunch of time for our small business customers. Another example is the self-employed expense finder. We know that around the typical small business customer has around 2,000 transactions that they need to sort through every year. And around 500 of those are actually business transactions versus personal transactions. And so the self-employed often are using their own personal bank account to be able to pay for things. And those transactions can often get mixed up with personal as well as the business transactions. And being able to sort through that can be a painful process for a small business. And so we automate, again, a lot of that work to be able to categorize and understand what is a personal versus a business expense. And the third example here is QB Assist, which is the voice user interface into the mobile app. And so there we're leveraging artificial intelligence as well as machine learning and the big data, to be able to anticipate what are the questions that you're asking, being able to allow customers to be able to ask naturally questions around what their financial position is, and then to be able to then respond immediately with those answers in a graphical and user friendly way, without the customer then having to navigate around the app to be able to get to the same answer. So these are examples of the kind of innovations that we're building into our products that are attracting new customers and helping to drive our growth. And speaking of growth, I mentioned the 2.5 million subscribers that we have. You can see that the acceleration is actually pretty astonishing, and we're very excited about that. And the opportunity, therefore, for third-party developers to be able to tap into that growth and tap into those customers is pretty huge, and we're excited about that as well. So just a couple of data points around that as well. So we ran a survey, Appification of small business. You're able to find that if you Google it, you're able to see all the slides for yourself. But just a couple of data points here is that nearly 70% of customers are using 4 or more apps to run their business. And if you included things like Excel, email, and other kind of productivity, typical productivity apps, that actually counts up to nearly 17 different apps. But if you think about the business apps that they're using specifically to run their business, typically that's around 4 apps. And they're using those apps to do things like track their customers, track time on their projects, manage inventory, manage their employee information, run payroll, and track expenses. So there are a lot of different jobs that need to get done that apps are solving. And if you go to apps.com, you'll see that we have over 20 categories of different apps that work with QuickBooks and integrate with QuickBooks. And all of these jobs are different jobs that, depending on different verticals and different size and different needs, our goal is to be able to provide all the apps that a small business needs to run their business and have them integrated with QuickBooks Online. And so they're having to avoid the issue of double data entry and different data silos. All the data is connected, and all the ins and the outs around the data are happening via QuickBooks Online. And that ecosystem of third-party apps is really growing as well. We have over 500 third-party apps. Over 530 third-party apps on apps.com. But what's really exciting is how many of our customers are using 1 or more third-party apps with QuickBooks Online. And the rate of growth that we're seeing here as well is also not only exciting for us, and the reason that that's good for us, just to share that with you, is we know that when a customer connects QuickBooks Online with a third-party app, they are happier, they stay longer with QuickBooks Online, their retention increases, and the overall lifetime value for Intuit increases. So we're really motivated to be able to connect these third-party apps with QuickBooks Online with our customers. As you can see, we've got over, well, actually this graph doesn't say it, it's slightly outdated in fact, but we've reached over 400,000 in just the last few weeks as well. But it's not just the quality, it's not about the quantity of apps, the quality of the apps that we have on our platform really matters. And we're proud to say that we have an average of over 4.6 star rating out of 5 for the third-party apps on our App Store. And we spend a lot of time educating developers about best practices around data integration, about how to do the right way, and how to provide first time use experience when a customer is connecting an app for the first time with QuickBooks Online. And that's really what the Intuit Developer Group is about. It's not just about providing the APIs and the SDKs and the tools and the App Store, but it's also about enabling you to be able to be successful with these integrations. And it matters that these ratings remain high across the third-party apps that are available for our customers. And that's kind of touching the surface, though, around all the activity that we see across our ecosystem. We have over 25,000 developers actively creating integrations with QuickBooks Online. Many of those are not apps that are sold on the App Store because they're doing those integrations as a one-off or a particular requirement that they need for their homegrown system or behind the firewall type integration. But what you see on the App Store are those apps then that have been packaged in a way to be able to then sell to customers as well. So just transitioning around the opportunity there around the 800 million small business customers that is the potential market opportunity that we've got, and how we see the opportunity for third-party developers to be able to be successful on our platform. We wanted to share with you a little bit more about our vision, about how we see things, and some more specifics around how we're helping our developers succeed. So our vision for the Intuit Developer Group is to become the global trusted platform of choice for developers that are serving small businesses as well as accountants. And I'll touch on the accountant piece and why that's also critical and how we're folding that part of the ecosystem into our platform and how you can take advantage of that side of the ecosystem. And at the end of the day, it's all about helping you grow. So in order for us to be the global trusted platform of choice, you have to have reasons to do that and experience a sense of ROI beyond just being able to do the integration with QuickBooks Online. And it's about helping you find new customers through our channels, through our App Store, and our various different activities that we do to be able to expose these third-party apps to our small business customers. So I'm going to give you a couple of examples. One is tip cards. So inside of QuickBooks Online, if you are logged in, you will see there are recommendations for specific applications that we are making based actually on machine learning algorithms and the data that we have in the cloud. So we see that customers like you are using apps like this, and we're actually recommending those apps. And so right within QuickBooks Online, a customer can click on that, find a little bit more about the app, and connect that up. And so we're making a number of improvements in terms of the overall discovery, not just in product discovery, but also we've been making improvements in terms of the search capabilities on the App Store. We are making changes around improving the landing pages, the app cards, so that the customer really understands what are the key benefits of the third-party app, and making it easier for customers to be able to leave these reviews as signals to the end customer about the quality of the app and how it's working for them. And so on the in-product discovery, I mentioned we rotate through a number of different third-party apps. We're finding that to be a very successful way to be able to expose these apps to the customers, the right customers at the right time with the right solutions, which is very exciting and is really contributing to that growth of third-party app attach that we're seeing within our QBO base. So outside of that, we also have a number of events. David mentioned a couple of events here, but a lot of what we do as well, it's about engaging with our developers and giving them the opportunity to be able to have fun and learn as they integrate with QuickBooks Online. And so the Small Business Hackathon we've ran over the last 14 months 5 different hackathons. The next one is happening. Well, we had the last one was over in Toronto, and as David mentioned, that we have the next one happening in London in February, later this month. Another example of how we're helping our developers to succeed is the introduction of something that we announced back in San Jose in November, which is a fund partnering with Lighter Capital exclusively for third-party developers that are available on apps.com that integrate with QuickBooks Online. And so Lighter Capital have reserved $15 million of funds to be able to help our developers succeed on our platform. And what's interesting about Lighter Capital is that they're not providing funding in return for equity. Their business model is different. It's about not having to have the developer worry about giving away the equity. Think of it as a loan, an access to capital that is paid back in terms of a percentage of the revenue moving forward. And so what that does is create the opportunity. If you're a developer and see opportunities to grow, accelerate your growth either through hiring more salespeople, buying more technology, improving your product, and need the capital to be able to do that, Lighter Capital provide exactly what you need to be able to help accelerate your growth. And so their funding is non-dilutive. The funding process is very transparent. It's data-driven. And unlike venture capital, which often requires 10x returns, Lighter Capital are looking for companies with a 1.4 to 2x return on their capital. So this is a great option for developers that are on our platform exclusively for those that integrate with QuickBooks Online. They've also mentioned the App Showdown. We're running the next one again this year, but this is a tremendous opportunity. And as David said, it's not just about the cash for the winners. It's about the tremendous exposure that we're giving to our third-party apps that are part of the showdown, to our accountant community, to the QBO customer base as well. So if you haven't known about this App Showdown, we encourage you to learn about it, see if you can qualify. If you have published your app in the last 12 months, you're qualified to apply. And it's a lot of fun, and it's tremendous exposure. And it was, and we announced it at the San Jose QBC, which is a lot of fun. So just transitioning a little bit, I've mentioned accountants a couple of times, and I wanted to just unpack for you the evolution of our journey and the platform. And so, you know, we fundamentally started the platform with two customers that we're solving for. One customer is the developers. So for developers, you want access to customers, you want the ability to be able to integrate with QuickBooks Online and grow your business. And on the other side, we have the small businesses that are looking for apps that complement QuickBooks Online. Either they fill gaps that QuickBooks Online doesn't have, or they're providing functionality in a way that is better suited for that particular small business. And so they're on the hunt and looking for third-party apps that work with QuickBooks Online that help them run their business and save them time so they can focus in on their passion and their small business growth. Now, what's interesting is the research that we did, is again, back to the Appification of small business, is that over 40% of small businesses actually feel overwhelmed by the number of possible apps that they could select from. And this includes whether it's on the iPhone, your Android, your app stores. There's a lot of third-party apps, a lot of apps for customers to choose from, and they're not quite sure which is the right app that they need that is suited for them. And in addition to that, over or around 2/3 of small businesses will actually be willing to pay somebody to help them figure out what is the right app, get trained on the right app, get onboarded on the right app. And so that is a really interesting opportunity and insight that we learned from. And then when we think about the role that the accountants play in our ecosystem, we know that every time a small business is using an accountant, they report, 90% of them report to be feeling more confident and successful than those without an accountant. And so the accountant really has a critical role to play as a small business advisor and helping our small business customers succeed. But they're also going through their own journey. That is the accountants as well. There's with the advent of more automation, machine learning, artificial intelligence, that is forcing accountants to think about how do they add value when technology is doing a lot of the data entry and a lot of the kind of the bookkeeping type work that the accountant can do. And that is the opportunity that accountants have. So go back to, hey, customers feel overwhelmed by the number of apps that they have to choose from, and they're actually willing to pay for somebody to help them figure out what is the right app for them and to onboard them. That's the opportunity that the accountant has to be able to play that role. And for that reason, we have declared accountants as a first-class citizen of the platform and helping them succeed in a couple of ways. And I'll show you about that. But really, just in the same way that small businesses are looking to save time, so are accountants. They want to be able to spend more time actually providing added value services to their customers while also being profitable. So how are we doing that? How are we helping accountants to play that small business advisor role, in particular in the context of third-party apps? So last year, we introduced the QuickBooks Online Accountant Apps tab. So there is a product called QuickBooks Online for Accountants. This product is what an accountant uses in order to be able to collaborate with their customer that is also a QuickBooks Online customer. And so through that product, the accountant is able to do the work that they need to with the customer's accounts within QuickBooks Online. So they use QuickBooks Online accountants all day. They live inside of that product in order to be able to do their work. And inside of QuickBooks Online for Accountants, we introduced the Apps tab. The Apps tab now enables an accountant to then find the app for the small business customer and then actually provision that app and connect that app on behalf of their small business customer. And what we're seeing now is a lot of growth of third-party apps now connected to QuickBooks Online because of that accountant, that apps tab for the accountants. And we made it very simple and very easy for the customer to be able to now have a third-party app working with QuickBooks Online and done in a safe way with the accountant walking them through about how to use that app, which is fantastic. The next phase that we're going through is something that we announced in QBC San Jose, and we will be going GA, general availability, with that later this year. So what is the apps program? So it's an extension of the apps tab, but with some really additional capabilities that our accountants are very excited about. what we're providing is a selection of really high quality apps that are on our app store, and providing those apps at a discounted rate to our accountants to purchase for then use either for themselves or to resell to their small business customers. And the accountant can decide to either retain that 20% discount or pass it on to the customer, and then present a single bill for all those third-party apps that the small business customer is now subscribed to. So this is opening up a very interesting and valuable channel now for third-party apps, because now if you think about the accountant being the small business advisor around technology as well, now being able to then find the right apps, provision those apps, and actually sell it to the customer, and then present a single bill is a huge opportunity. So how does that work? Well, we've done a tremendous amount to be able to really simplify the purchasing process for the accountant to do that. So from within the apps tab, they select the app. They can either select it for themselves or they can select it for a particular client. They click install, they check a couple of boxes. We then take care of all the billing that the accountant is going to present back to the end customer. We do all the money collection, all the reconciliation, and the third-party app then gets their share of the of the revenue, which is all happening through the billing platform that we're building out. So if you're interested in becoming part of the Accountant Apps program or as part of the Accountant Apps tab, your app needs to be accountant ready. And there are details on developer.intuit.com on how to do that. But just to give you a flavor of the requirements on that front for the apps tab, is it needs to be able to support a single sign-on. You need to do the rel mapping ID correctly so that it's multi-location aware and accountant ready. The app needs to target the SMBs, not just the accountants as well, and support monthly pricing. And there's some more details that you're able to find through our site. So that's just another great opportunity for third-party apps to be able to grow their business through our platform, and hopefully give you a real sense of all the work that we're doing to help you succeed, and giving you a return on the investment that you've made in integrating with our platform and becoming part of our ecosystem. So with that, I'm going to now hand off to Rajashree, who can talk to you about what we're doing with our platform to make it even better, smarter, and easier to integrate for you as developers.
Great. While you're getting your thing shared here, Rajashree, and I think I should stop sharing. Just a couple of quick announcements. Please remember to use the chat panel for chat and Q&A for Q&A. And I found out, I got word we are successfully streaming to Facebook Live. So if you have any questions and you're watching on Facebook, just put in the comments, and I'm able to watch that, and I can get those any questions or comments back to Alex and Rajashree as we go along. So Rajashree, you're sharing successfully, so I'll go on mute and let you continue.
Excellent, great. So I introduced myself to you guys already. I know a few people joined after. So I'm the Director of Engineering for Intuit Developer Group, and I'd love to talk to you about what we are doing with the platform. So as we look at all the great opportunities we are opening up for your apps to get in the hands of small businesses and use accountants as a channel, there's capital and all of that. I think all of that has to start with a great integration between your app and QuickBooks. And in order to come up with a great integration, the key things you need is a platform of capabilities that allows you to integrate well, as well as developer tools and so on. So I'm going to talk a little bit about where we are headed. As we've looked at, again, Intuit platform has been around for over 10, 15 years, and we have a constant stream of input from all the developers about what we could do better, what we do really well, and so on. And as we think through all of that, three key themes emerge. The key themes are availability and quality for integration to work and for it to be valuable to customers. Fundamentally, you need it to be available all the time. You need it to be the platform to have high quality and essentially be able to provide the value that the integration aims to deliver to the small business appropriately. The second key area is, as our products and platform are evolving, the developers need access to the data and access to the new capabilities. So we need to be able to make sure we are constantly providing you additional ways of integrating with the QuickBooks platform. And then the third piece is accounting is hard. And accounting is our core domain of expertise. The easier we can make it for you to integrate with the platform, the easier it is going to be to create high quality apps. So let's look at each of those three areas one by one. So as we look at availability and quality, our promise to you is our platform is just as available as our products. And we have an internal goal that we have met consistently now for several quarters of 99.95% availability across the board. And that applies to all of our products, QuickBooks, payroll, payments, as well as the platform that powers all of it underneath. And I'm really excited that we have a technological transformation going on internally that really focuses on availability and quality as our very key areas of focus. Talking a little bit more around the quality of platform, let me talk to it from the point of view of capabilities that you've been using. So most of you, if you have an integration with QuickBooks today, use the accounting V3 API that was launched a little bit 4 or 5 years ago. And it was getting rusty. So I'm really thrilled to announce that in the last 6 or 8 months, we have dedicated a lot of attention to this V3 API, and we have solved over 60% of the known issues that were that existed with the API, as well as added some enhancements. And I want to assure you that the accounting V3 API from now on will remain performant, it will remain accurate, and we will continue to support it. I know there has been a little bit of voice of developer around that. The second piece I wanted to talk about is we launched OAuth 2 as an authentication and authorization mechanism in July or August last year. When we launched it, it was only available for new apps. We now have the ability for you to migrate your existing apps as well as your customers to OAuth 2. If you go to developer.intuit.com, you should be able to find documentation on that. And I'm going to ask you guys to move to OAuth 2 as quickly as possible, because that's going to allow you to take advantage of our next generation platform, something that I'll talk about just in a couple of minutes. The third thing in terms of quality that I want to talk to is building resilient integration. So I'm sure there is a Hangout that either has happened or will happen soon, but we've been investing significant amount of time as we build integrations ourselves internally to focus on this idea of integration resiliency. And some of the capabilities in there are things such as webhooks, where you can build integrations that don't depend on constantly trying to poll a platform, but we can let you know when something changes, and we can have those webhooks in place for you. We also have internally developed some methodologies that can create resilient integration. And let me take a minute to talk about what I mean by resilient integrations. So fundamentally, by the nature of an integration, we are connecting two apps together. So these two apps are on two different stacks in two different environments, two different platforms. And as you build a product or build a capability that combines those two by either passing data back and forth or by depending on changes happening in across the two applications, you need to make sure you plan for one of those being down. and still not affecting the end customer with that impact. So integration resiliency is a key area that we are focusing on, and as we go into our next generation platform, you will get more capabilities to be able to make your integrations resilient. An example of that would be if for some reason we have one of the services or one of the capabilities that's not available on the platform, we can tell you that it's not available now using a programmatic API, and then we can go back and tell you when it's back up again. So on the other side of the integration, you can actually build the resiliency for that. The second big area I want to talk about is we are now ready to launch the next generation of our APIs, what we call the V4 API. And I'm just going to touch on a few key values or principles behind this API. The very first principle is this is a single comprehensive small business API as a product. So unlike in the previous versions where you had a payments API, an accounting API, and those worked a little bit independently because they were connected to how the silos we had in our products, our next generation V4 API is going to be a single consistent representation of the API that connects to accounting and payroll and tax and reports and invoicing and all the different functions that we have as services internally powering our products. Now those are going to be available to you in a single platform. And by a single platform, what I mean is with a single authentication mechanism, you can actually get access to all of these APIs in the same format, same standard, same mechanism, and so on. The second key principle is it is a modern API. What do I mean by a modern API? We have QuickBooks as a product is now available in, besides US, 5 other countries. So we are available in India, France, UK, Canada, and Australia. This API allows you to use the variability that is applicable in all of these other environments. As we know, tax works differently in all these other countries. The specific compliance rules might be different. So with the same set of API, we have variability built into that API. So when you build an integration, the parts that are common to all regions, you can interact with the same way, but then depending on which global region you are building your integration for, the same API will provide you additional fields or additional data that's applicable to those countries. The third thing I want to talk about is it is an efficient API. And I don't know how many of you are familiar with GraphQL. The nice pink ring out here is the symbol of GraphQL. GraphQL is the query language that Facebook announced. They used it internally first, and they announced in 2015 and open sourced it for everybody's use. But what GraphQL is it's a simple query language for client integrations or for an external integration. You can just define all the data that you need in a simple way. And the GraphQL runtime that we will support from the platform will go pull that data from different APIs across our platform and provide it to you. So this is definitely a different way of accessing this information than REST or batch that we currently have available, and we'll continue to support REST in V4 as well. But GraphQL is kind of what we look at it as a next generation ease of use improvement of how to interact with our platform. The next thing that our next generation API will support is higher security. As we have gone into the era of GDPR in Europe, internally here in the US, very high requirements of data security. We will be rolling out much more granular scopes related to the identity of the user, the role the user plays, so whether it's an accountant or a user or a system admin or an employee, as well as the scopes that they will have. And you will be able, along with our API, so you will be able to, in your app, make use of those scopes depending on the roles. And last but not the least, it's going to be interoperable with our current platform, because clearly, you know, we have over 500 apps in our app store that are published, many more than that, over 1,000 that are private apps. And we want to make sure, as you start taking advantage of our next generation API, you are still able to use V3 and have a nice transition over. So again, we won't be able to support GraphQL across V3 and V4, but V4 will have a REST endpoint, and you will be able to use integrations that use V3 and V4 interoperably. So I'm really, really excited about this V4 API, and we are getting started to start rolling it out. I just want to share with you what our early testers are saying. So we have shared a lot of detail about V4 with the Developer Council that we meet with every few months, and they have had a chance to play with it. They've had a chance to actually see what will be available. And I just want to share some of the comments of what we're hearing. I think, you know, this refers to liking the different ways of getting data in and out of QBO. So this refers to support for GraphQL, support for a consistent single platform across the board. Again, a lot more access. The whole idea around V4 is we are building our own products on this API. So unlike V3, which was specifically developed for external developers to connect to QuickBooks, V4 is actually used internally as well. So our own product is going to sit on that API and use it as a platform. And then out of that, those set of entities, some of those will be exposed to the third-party developers. So it's going to be a lot more intuitive. The quality and the reliability is going to come out of the box because our products will be sitting on that API as well. For users of GraphQL, this is again great news, because now, along with their own internal platform, they can also use the data from the QuickBooks platform using the same query language and API. And overall, I think we have an initial certificate from our developers that this is a world-class set of APIs. I'm really excited that you are all going to start getting access to it and be able to use it. The next piece I want to talk about is enhanced capabilities. So as we look at enhanced capabilities, one of the very long-standing requests from our developer community has been access to payroll data and ability to integrate with Payroll API. So I'm thrilled to announce that we are ready to start rolling out a bunch of use cases that connect to our payroll product and work seamlessly with accounting and payroll side by side. So time tracking is the first capability that will be put into early access for you. We do have our own, now that we have acquired T-Sheets, our own integration with the time tracking API, where essentially for employees that are working, their time can be pushed into QBO and in payroll through a third-party app. So time tracking, that's been more of a limited access API so far. It is in V4, is now going to be opened up to all the developers. The other two use cases that we're working on, which will be fast follow to time tracking, are onboarding employees and benefits enrollment. So onboarding employees, think of an application where your employees might be providing additional information or using a different app or so on. And we want to make sure seamlessly that employee data can be brought into QBO, where a lot of the payroll and other payments and other accounting activities happen. The second use case is benefits enrollment. So think of it as in the payroll, as a small business runs payroll for their employees. Depending on what benefits they're enrolled for, there are deductions and contributions that need to be accounted for in the payroll. And the benefits enrollment API will allow those deductions and contributions to flow directly from one app to the other and reduce the work for our payroll to get that information. So those two, again, are really exciting use cases. And as the year rolls by, you will be able to get access to that API. The third thing that I want to talk about is ease of use. So some of the voice of developer we have heard constantly is in order to integrate with QuickBooks and the V3 API, you need to know a lot of accounting. And while we have made the accountant channel available and we have internally a lot of experts that can help you integrate, in the next generation API, what we aim to do is to take the accounting detail out of how to integrate with API. So essentially, we want to abstract out all of the accounting behind putting financial transactions into QuickBooks. We can take care of that, and all you can do simply is to make sure all of the financial money in, money out information is pushed into QuickBooks. So this is the concept of staged transactions. And in a very simple way, the way I would explain it is if as a third-party app, you are making financial transactions that are applicable to a user's books, all you need to do is post all those transactions to our new V4 API called Stage Transaction or Stage Platform. Those transactions, like they're shown here on the left-hand side of the screen, will come into the Stage Platform. And then we will run categorizations and rules and machine learning and AI on all of those transactions across all the different apps coming in to actually put them in the right chart of accounts, to have right accounting rules applied to it, and all that gets presented to the user and committed to books. What this will avoid moving forward is, as a third-party app, when you are integrating with QuickBooks, you won't have to worry about messing up the user's books. We are going to take care of that for you. And this is going to really, really improve the ease of use of integrating with QuickBooks as a platform. So I know that this is something that we have had in the works for a few years. I'm super thrilled to announce that our first app using this capability in its productized form is ready to launch in general availability across all our products. And it's we usually have a method of building an app ourselves and then making it available to all of you, so we know about the quality and the ease of use of it. So the PayPal data integration is already in public beta and is ready to launch into general availability using this capability. So this is really ready for prime time, and you will be getting access to it later this year. Again, a little bit of feedback from some of our developer council members. This capability is going to be a game changer for getting data into QBO. We are super excited about that. So I talked about a whole bunch of new platform capabilities that we are getting ready to launch. One of the ways we want to launch it is, first of all, we want to make sure the use case is really clear. So we're not going to spray a whole bunch of entities in an API to you. We are actually going to launch it in bite-sized methods, like I said, with the Stage Transaction API, with time tracking, with employee onboarding, and so on. And as we launch it, we are actually going to roll it out like a real product. So starting with doing a proof of concept internally by using it ourselves, then going into an early access program. So as a developer, you can sign up for this early access program. You can get access to this API. We can make sure we take all the initial feedback and bake it in before we go into general availability and make it available. So I'd encourage you, if any of these use cases are interesting, to sign up for an early access program. There is a way to sign up on developer.intuit.com as well. And that will allow you to also help us make this a really great platform and really great set of capabilities that work well for you. So hopefully this gives you an idea of where we are headed. So just as we are taking to the next level your ability to get customers through QuickBooks, provide great benefits to those customers across different apps, and grow with us, there is a platform that's going to keep up with it and allow you to do higher quality and deeper and much better integrations. So let me hand it back to Alex to bring us to a close, and we can go to questions and so on from there. So I'll just click to the next slide, Alex, I think, and I'll let you take it over from here.
Thanks. Thanks then, Rajashree. So hopefully you got a good sense of the opportunity that we see for third-party developers to grow their own business and succeed by becoming members of our ecosystem, about integrating their apps and making them available through our app store for our 2.5 million customers is a really exciting opportunity and channel for third-party developers, and give you a sense about all the work that we're doing to help our customers discover those apps and succeed with those apps, about how we're really involving now the accountants as part of our platform, and opening up a really valuable channel to be able to drive more customers to those third-party apps, about the work that we do around things like hackathons and other activities and educational opportunities to help you learn about how best to create those integrations. And then with Rajashree, walking through what is a really exciting roadmap and how we're going to continue to advance the platform with stronger capabilities, more resiliency, as well as enabling easier ways for third-party developers to integrate with our platform without having to necessarily have a PhD in accounting. So with that, we'd like to thank you very much for joining us for your time here, and it's back over to David.
Thanks both of you. It's interesting watching you this deck, and every time there's a deck like this made, how fast the growth numbers are out of date. I think you were like, oh, there's 2.5 million small business QuickBooks Online users, and I think now we're at 2.8 million, and it's just every time the numbers of this space just are skyrocketing right now, and so it's a ride that you want to be part of to some extent. Just a couple notes. I did put the link in for the V4 Early Access Program. I put it in the webinar chat, and I also put it on the Facebook Live. As of right now, nobody's asking any questions. Obviously, you guys covered a lot, pretty in depth. So we'll just give people just a chance to, if you have any questions, please ask in the Q&A panel. And I'm going to flip over to Facebook just to see if there's any Facebook Live questions coming in. One moment. Yeah, nothing coming in through there as well. Obviously, you guys have covered everything. Apparently, there's nothing left to cover. Do you guys have any other closing thoughts, kind of high level, that maybe you thought of now that are not really part of your presentation from 2 or 3 months ago? Oh, you might be
I can just, I think, again, like you said, David, this presentation is a couple months old. We really started out putting our thoughts together back at the QuickBooks Connect in San Jose. I think what I'm most excited about is throughout last year, we did a lot of work. Some of you guys know that Alex joined a little over a year ago. And I think we really have brought the focus back on developers, on smaller developers, not just where the benefit is going to come to Intuit as a company, but really focusing on how we can be the platform for small businesses where they can go find the right apps. And in order to do that, what I'm most excited about is we are really, really focusing on how we can have the smaller developers grow with us. So hopefully you share that excitement, and I look forward to working closely with you all. That's what I would share. I'll see if, what Alex has.
It looks like we did get a question in here on the Facebook Live feed. Let me read that out. It's from Chris Reagan. So what's the long-term strategy for the accountant channel versus the direct channel? And so I'm assuming that's using the QuickBooks Online Accountants tab versus apps.com and going straight to the small business owners.
Yeah, so the long-term strategy is really marrying with the overall business strategy that isn't developer specific. So accountants are such a critical component of the ecosystem at large that we're building out. We have it's now over 700,000 accountants that we have as part of our network, and being able to help them succeed through innovations such as the matchmaking feature that we have within the products, which allows small business customers to find accountants, and the right accountants that are local to them or know their industry very well with high reputation and reviews, is a great example of how we're enabling the accountants to also grow their business and find new customers. And as we mentioned, every time that we see a customer connected to an accountant, that small business is feeling more confident and is more successful and less likely to go out of business. So that side of the network is critical to us. And the long-term strategy from the developer group is to continue to go down a journey of allowing and enabling accountants to become truly a small business technology advisor, and enabling them to effectively act as a channel for these third-party apps to our small business customers by recommending the right apps, actually provisioning the apps and doing the setup and all the rest of it, and then actually creating a new financial opportunity for the accountant. I mentioned about the 20% discount that the accountant gets, and you know, they can keep that 20% discount. So for every app that they're selling through, that's another additional incremental recurring revenue that they're able to enjoy while they're solving the small business problem, while we're finding new customers for developers. So it all works out beautifully in the way that we're able to solve all three sides of the platform for the benefit of each other every single time we're making that connection. So the long-term strategy is keep enabling accountants to become real champions of third-party apps and acting as a critical component to how we succeed as a platform.
Yeah, I think that's a great answer, and especially with as you're answering that, really, the slide that's left up on the screen on accident is like the perfect summary of what you were just saying. Really, it's the whole ecosystem is rising just because everybody's working together and everybody's helping each other ultimately. I know we just had that big, huge commercial, right, with the robot, and I like to think inside that robot is just 25,000 developers, 200,000 pro advisors and accountants, and the 8,000 Intuit employees are actually inside that robot, like operating all the little levers, you know, for the Intuit robot that's helping everybody else. So it's pretty exciting. So I think on that note, there's no other questions. I will thank you very much for coming. We will get this up on YouTube later. For those of you that want to watch after the fact, you can rewind, fast forward through it, skip around, but it should be up on YouTube this afternoon. Alex, thank you. Rajashree, thank you. Look forward to seeing you guys at the next event.
Thank you, David. Thank you. Thanks everyone for joining.
Thanks, everybody. Bye-bye.